Hello, beautiful readers. Welcome back to Chapter 3, A Little Spark of Circus Mirandus. Mika scooped up the tea tray before Aunt G could tell him to do it. It was difficult to hold it steady, and the teacups trembled in their saucers as he took a cautious step towards the door. Aunt G blocked the path. "Where do you think you're going?" Mika tried to smile at her. "Upside for tea?" She gave him a considering look as she lifted the tray off of his hands. "I don't think so," she said. "You're going to sit right here where you won't make a mess." Mika frowned at her. He didn't make a mess. "But I always get to go to Grandpa Ephraim during tea." She sniffed. "Ephraim's been exhausted lately. I think it's best if you don't bother him quite so often." But he was feeling better than this morning. He wanted to tell me about... you just don't want me to talk to him because I don't want you to annoy a very sick man every hour of the day. And because you don't need any more silliness stuffed between your ears, especially not your grandfather's sort of silliness. Now sit. She nodded at the kitchen table. When he didn't move, she set a pink roses teacup on the table and raised her eyebrows at him. Lately, Mika felt like he was a rubber band that Aunt G was stretching a little farther every time. She spoke. Surely it couldn't go on forever. She would have to get tired of pulling eventually. If she didn't, he would snap. But not today. Mika dragged his feet as he went on the table. But he went. He gave his aunt the worst glare he could muster. She turned to the door. He'll want to see me," Mika said to her stiff back. "Drink your tea." "I think..." She looked back at him. "Don't you have homework?" He glanced at the sticky note on the fridge. "That's what I thought. Maybe you can see Ephraim once you've proven that you are responsible and sensible about the obedience." She fell without another word. Mika waited until he could hear the hard soles of her shoe clicking on the stairs, and then he poured his nasty cup of tea down the sink. When Mika trudged upstairs, Grandpa Ephraim's door was shut tight. "Of course, I'll sneak in as soon as Aunt G leaves," he promised himself. He went to his room and flopped down on his unmade bed. He was supposed to be working on the half of a group project for social studies. Jenny Mendoza, the smartest girl in the whole 5th grade, was expecting Mika to bring a model of an Incan artifact to school tomorrow so that they could research for their presentation. He hadn't exactly started on it yet, but it would be easy. One of the pictures in their textbook was of the thing called a cupu, which looked like a bunch of strings tied into fancy knots. And Mika could do that with his eyes closed. Probably. Knots weren't regular homework when you were a turtle. They were something of a family specialty. Maybe, thought Mika, Grandpa Ephraim and I could make the Gipa together. It wasn't as exciting as building a tree house, but it was the sort of project his grandfather might like. Making the Gipa together sounded fun, normal, like something they would have done before everything went wrong. Mika rolled off his bed and reached for the bottom drawer of the dresser. A neat coil of blue string laid of a nest of odds and ends that had collected from all over the house. When he realized that Aunt G's idea of tidying the place up meant throwing everything she herself didn't use in the garbage, Mika's socks had to make the room 2 yo-yos, a basketball, a felt hat, a small army of an action figure, a pack of old maid cards, and the string. He picked it up and wrapped his fingers around it. It was good string, perfectly for tying. All that was left to do was wait. When he finally heard Aunt G shutting the grandfather's door, Mika was off to his room, and across the hall in a sneaky quiet flash, he slipped into Grandpa Ephraim's familiar room and took it all in with a glance. A ceramic duck crouched and took took it all in with a glass. A ceramic duck crouched on top of the alarm clock. A 5-gallon pickle jar full of sugar marbles and tarnished coins sat in the corner. Pictures covered the pale blue walls. A couple of photos tucked away in corners showed his grandfather standing with a pretty young woman who Mika knew was his wife. Grandpa Efren didn't like to talk about her. There were pictures of Grandpa Efren's friends and places he'd been. And there was even a tiny one of Aunt G, taken when she was a little girl. She had a cast on her arm. Mika liked to look at the pictures of her parents' wedding. They had died in a boating accident when he was 4, and the pictures helped him remember then. But his favorite photographs were of him and Grandpa Efren together. He liked to think that they look alike, even though his grandfather's hair was gray and his own was brown. Most of the pictures of the two of them were out of focus because they had never figured out how to take a good photo using the timer on the camera. But in every one, they had the same hazel eyes and the same smile. Grandpa Efren didn't look quite like himself these days. His smiles were just as warm as they have always been, but he was thinner and pale from being stuck in bed all the time. When Mika entered the room, he was propped on top of a mound of pillows, staring towards the window through the gap of the curtains. Mika could just see the half-finished treehouse crabbled in the branches of the oak. "It's a great treehouse," said Mika. "It would be a lot of fun this summer, even without a roof." Grandpa Efren turned to face him. His eyes were bright with secrets. "Oh, there you are, Mika. We have business to discuss, me and you." "I'm sorry I'm late, Mika." Mika made a place for himself on the foot of the bed and set down his coil of blue string. "She kept me away." "Ah, you missed some delicious tea," Grandpa Efren said. "I bet." Even though they were both trying to look serious, Grandpa Efren's nose wrinkled up and thought of the inky tea, and Mika's own nose couldn't help itself. They grinned at each other. "I poured mine down the sink," Mika confessed. "Well, at least one of us escaped," Grandpa Efren said. That was true enough, but Mika would drink a whole kettle of ink every day if it meant that they could spend more time together. Why is Aunt G always so the way she is? He didn't want to tell Grandpa Efren that his sister was horrible, but it was hard not to complain sometimes. Grandpa Efren sighed. "Your great aunt and I have been close for a very long time. It's my fault as much as it is hers." "I doubt that," Mika muttered. His grandfather raised an eyebrow. "It was good of her to come. She's not happy there. She's not happy here. But we do need the help." "I could do everything she does," Mika thought, "and I would be a lot nicer about doing it." "I know she can be frustrating. If you could just try to get along with her for a little while longer." "I am trying." He didn't know how to explain it, to say that it seemed like he was doing nothing but trying these days. He was trying not to upset Aunt G, and he was trying to find a way to help his grandfather, and he was trying to be okay even though he was pretty sure he wasn't. "I'm trying a lot." "I know you are, and you're doing wonderful, Mika. You really are." He looked towards the window. "I need to tell you something." Mika smiled. "Something magical?" "I was hoping it would be one of your Circus Mirandus stories." Their eyes met, and Mika felt something pass between them. A zing, a little spark of knowing that whatever his grandfather was about to say would change everything. "I've written a letter to an old friend," said Grandpa Efren. "I think you should read it." Okay, guys, that was chapter 3 of Circus Mirandus.